Supergirl faces Metallo, and Arrow fights a bunch of guns.
We're going to talk about all that and more as we review and recap all the CW DC TV shows. Hey, I'm Jason Inman.
And I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
Welcome to DCTV Recap, where we're going to recap all the CW DC TV shows. Valentine's Day kind of put a big kibosh on a couple of the shows, so we're only talking about Arrow, we're only talking about Supergirl, and as always, you can go down to the description, click ahead to your favorite show, but there's only 2 of them, so just stick around for the entire thing, right? And then also, stay around to the entire end of the show. We're going to read some of your comments from last week. Let's jump right into Supergirl.
Supergirl Season 2, Episode 12, Luthors. Lena is arrested when Metallo breaks Lillian out of prison, and evidence suggests that Lena is responsible.
All right, we're going to break down this show like we do every show with some good, the bad, and predictions and all that type of stuff. First of all, I want to talk about, there was a scene very early on in this episode where they were all in the bar, and Alex was introducing Maggie to all of them, and we got this nice little reveal from John Jones that of course he knew because he's a telepath, but he didn't think it was his place to say.
So good! David Harewood plays that moment in just such a wonderful way, and I like that Alex has a joke where they're like, oh, what's all this about? And she's like, just ladies loving ladies.
Well, and one of the things is I actually appreciated Mon-El in this scene, and Mon-El being like, that's a deal? Why is that a deal?
Yeah.
That's something?
I think you could have given that line to anyone and it would have been great. Like any of the aliens. Like you could have given Kara that line.
You could have given Kara that line.
About Krypton. Yeah. But I get that like Mon-El's there, so we have to have him do something.
And Mon-El is the sex alien of this show so far.
Ugh, yeah.
What else did you like from this episode?
Called Luthors.
Luthors.
I always want to say Luthor, but like all like the Superman people say Luthor.
Listen, if you're Otis, you say Luthor.
Is that what it's from?
Yeah.
Is that what? Okay.
Yeah. Because it goes, Mr. Luthor.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, Otis. Superman the movie. Look it up.
Yeah, look it up. It's good. Of all the Luthor stuff that was going on, I pretty much only liked Lena. I really like that actress from Merlin, where she played Morgana Le Fay. I think she's been really great in the show. I don't quite understand why her and Kara are as tight as they are.
They haven't explained that well.
I don't think they've earned that, but I get that I understand the impetus for that in the drama of the episode. But I thought she acted her scenes very well, even if her accent went in and out. I just really like her. I think she's great. How about you? What else did you think?
I really like the Luthor scenes as well. Lena and her mom in prison at first, where the prison's mom in the scene. I actually really like when they were in the van during one part of the episode, and like the mom was rescuing her, of course, and her mother explaining that, of course, I had to break you out. Everybody will think the Luthors are evil.
Yeah.
Which
they are.
Yeah. And even Metallo kind of being their thug in this, like he was a hired gun, like they hired Metallo to do this. But I will say that I thought that some of the Supergirl stuff was really strong in this episode. I really liked Supergirl catching the crane and doing that was cool. Very similar homage to Superman Returns, where he catches the planet, and also Superman and Batman v Superman, where he catches the space shuttle. I thought that was really cool. But also, let's talk about that we finally saw the Catco offices again, and I don't think we've seen them in like 3 to 4 episodes.
The important thing is we got to see Snapper Carr again. Yep.
But like they were actually like involved. Like Kara actually did her job.
There was a reason.
Jimmy actually did his job.
I actually thought this was one of Jimmy's better episodes.
I agreed.
I didn't mind Jimmy. I actually didn't mind when he showed up as Guardian.
Nope.
Again, it could have been Supergirl, but I was fine with it. There is a scene when Kara kind of tells him and Snapper off, and I was like, but they're both your boss. You can't talk to your boss like that.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, there was a reason to be at Catco, so it was nice to see it again. It didn't feel as forced as it has in previous episodes.
Now let's talk about what I think is the massive strength of this episode. When they jump down the comic book hole and it just goes crazy. They go to Lex Luthor's vault, and they say that it's one of his, like, across the world. And it can only work with Luthor DNA. Not specifically Lex Luthor DNA, but Luthor DNA. Why Lex would code it that way, I don't know. Comic books.
Pretty sure you can't actually code anything that way.
No, not specifically. And just like you can't code people's phones.
Well, there you go.
That's why they go off dirty videos. But inside the thing, we find out that's why Lena was liberated. Cyborg Superman is there.
Yeah.
And then in the armory, we see the chest plate of Lex Luthor's classic green comic book armor. Not only that, That's not the only Easter egg. We get the Black Mercy, which we saw in season 1.
Yeah.
But did you understand the biggest Easter egg in that entire vault? It's not even Lex Luthor's armor.
Probably not.
They said the atomic axe, and they showed the atomic axe.
I don't know what the atomic axe is.
Well, I'm gonna blow your mind a little bit. This is the biggest Easter egg Supergirl has had all season. Wanna know why? The atomic axe is an axe used by a character known as the Persuader. The Persuader is a member of the Fatal Five. The Fatal Five are the villains of the Legion of Superheroes.
Oh, of which Mon-El and Supergirl have been members.
In certain series. Yes, indeed. So this is, to me, the biggest confirmation that next season of Supergirl is the Legion.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Because why else would they specifically mention in a line of dialogue the atomic axe?
I don't know. They've had a couple throwaway Easter eggs that haven't panned out into anything.
But they did.
But I hope you're right.
They featured it on camera pretty heavily. So that's what makes me lean towards that. Anything else you dug from this?
I kind of think that's it.
Well, I have one other thing.
Okay.
I like the fact that, again, I really like this episode when it dug deep into the comic book craziness. I like that Lex Luthor makes synthetic kryptonite. That makes sense to Lex Luthor.
Does.
And I also like that it's unstable. So that's why, that kind of stuff like that. And then also I loved at the very end that it got very comic booky. Like Martian Manhunter saved her, Metallo blew up, and they flew away. And I was like, wow, this is when the show really works, when it digs deep into this comic book goodness stuff. So, yeah, all right, let's go to the bad.
Okay, you mentioned Metallo a lot in your good.
No. I mentioned Metallo just showing up in the good.
Right.
I hate Metallo.
So I think
that actor's terrible.
I actually don't think this actor's a bad choice for Metallo, because Metallo just needs to be a thug. But he doesn't look like Metallo. He doesn't act like Metallo.
He does look like Metallo.
Okay, I didn't think he was very good, and I think you could have done the episode without him. I also don't like Lillian very much, so almost...
Why?
I just don't think she's very good. I think she is like a soap opera level actress. And I know that Supergirl and CW shows are characterized as having qualities of a soap opera, but she is just so over the top and so ridiculous. Like, I appreciate that she's making strong choices. I just think they're bad choices.
Well, I will go back to your thing about Metallo. There have been times that Metallo has looked like that, but I don't like Metallo because I just don't feel that the actor is bringing anything more to the role besides like mustache twirling villain.
I agree.
But I will say too, in this episode, and I didn't really notice it in the first time we saw Metallo, I thought his chest piece looked really plasticky and
really
cheap. It
yeah.
looked bad. And the fight that they had right outside the courtroom, I thought was really, really terrible. I also made some other notes about certain things that popped up.
I thought the flashback scene with Lena was really cool for the Lena and Lex parts, but Lionel and Lillian I thought were both terrible. And the technology that they were using to like de-age her made her just look like she had an Instagram filter that had been slapped on too many times.
Oh, see, I didn't think they CGI'd her. I thought they just put a lot of makeup on her.
I thought she looked real smooth.
Well, the actor that plays Lionel Luthor, I didn't think he was very good, but he's also like just like kind of a background. I've seen him in a lot of Vancouver shows.
Yeah.
I want to bring up just some little stuff here. Kara can't spell exclusive. That is brought up in this episode. That Sabra's like, can you spell exclusive right? Really? She can't spell exclusive?
You know, I wouldn't mind if Kara had trouble spelling English words. She would have learned English by the age of 12, and it is a thing where if you don't learn certain English customs by the time you're 10 years old, it's really difficult grammatically and linguistically to learn.
Okay, fair
But
point.
that should have been something that had been consistently established throughout her character. It just makes her look like an idiot.
It makes them look like they're trying to do a cheap joke of Lois Lane in Superman the movie. The consistent joke is that Lois Lane can't spell like catastrophe and stuff like that. But we haven't set that up with Kara before. This is the first time it's ever appeared.
So it just makes her seem weird.
It makes her seem dumb.
Also, you can't talk to your bosses like that. They're both your boss.
Yeah.
Kara is very insubordinate in this issue, and we've discussed this in several Supergirl reviews. Like, Kara should have been fired
so long ago
in this issue. And then also, Kara is like gets on everyone's like butt about like, no, we have to stick up for Lena. I know Lena is good, and like I know we worked really hard in her first appearance to make them seem like friends, but like they've only met like twice.
Maybe 4 times.
Maybe 4 or 5 times, but like they don't have this close bond of friendship that Supergirl would know her character so well that she would know if she was being set up or not.
The problem with it is that they haven't really, and actually I think they have met more than 4 times, because there was that whole episode where it was the dinner party, remember? And Lena and Wynn worked under the table.
But Kara but her meeting her as Kara versus her meeting her as Supergirl are different.
I know, true. But what I'm saying is I think that they have met up. The problem is that every scene we've had between Kara and Lena has been Kara going to Lena's office and being like, can I get a quote? Can I get an exclusive?
Yeah.
Like, because she went there with Clark. She went there for when the Hicks with the laser guns were there, and then she went there for something else when the mother was captured. But it's all been in terms of reporter.
It's been business.
Yeah,
They're not friends.
I agree with you. They have not established a thing. I want to bring up some other little things. There is a reference. There's a joke. They try to make a joke about Macaulay Culkin still being dead. I'm like, wow.
I had no idea what that reference was, and I am the demographic the show is supposed to be appealing to.
That is very dated. Metallo just walks into the prison.
Yeah.
He's just there, and the guards are like,
"How'd
you get in here?"
So does Guardian.
That's true. That's true. But it's still like, if you get to like right in front of the jail cell, like you've gone through like several levels of security.
Yes.
And I get Metallo is strong, but like, come on.
Also, there's no way that all that metal would get through.
The weird mountainous warehouse that Lex owned is the same mountainous warehouse
that we've seen for everyone.
That we've seen in Arrow. It's the same warehouse where Vandal Savage and the Legends of Tomorrow have their fight in that big Arrow Flash crossover from last year. And then there's a terrible scene with Kara and Mon-El where they're being mad at each other, and he's like,
every scene with Kara and Mon-El is
it's
terrible.
the very end that introduces Mixel Spitlick, and Mon-El,
he's a creep.
Mon-El says, why are you mad at me? You don't like me. Why do you care? And then she's like, I don't care, but maybe I do like. And the whole scene is like them walking around in circles to just kiss each other, and you're just like, kiss.
Don't kiss.
Well, don't kiss because we don't want that, but no real person talks that way.
Yeah,
ever.
Exactly.
You're just setting these things up.
They wrote them like they were 2 14-year-olds fighting over a text message.
Yes.
Like that's what the conversation comes off as. 2 adult people would not speak to each other like that.
So overall, I would say there was more bad in this episode than good, but the comic booky goodness stuff that really carried me through. All right, so let's go straight to the rating. On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. Ashley.
Yes.
What would you give this episode of Supergirl?
I think this was a pretty bad episode of Supergirl, and it really could have been a pretty good one, considering the context. I think an episode that focuses on the Luthors
should have been great.
Should have been really interesting. Yeah. They're very well established in this universe, but all the rest of it was pretty much silly, including some of the Luthor stuff. So I'm gonna give it 2.
I am also going to give it a 2. I would have gave it a 1, and I was heading towards giving it a 1 and a 0. But then we saw Lex Luthor's armor. Yeah. We saw the axe. I thought the end fight scene and that stuff in that warehouse was so good that I was like, why wasn't the rest of the episode like that?
It was a pretty good fight too. It wasn't one of the better ones, but it was solid.
And then even the buildup of like Alex and Wynn being like, get out of there, get out. Like that was very dramatic, and to the point where John had to save her because she wouldn't leave. That's what I want from Supergirl.
Her not leaving too felt very super. It felt like something she should have done, and like what Clark would have done.
And she tried to save him.
Yes.
She's like, you don't let me save you. You don't have to do this.
Yeah.
Very Superman moment. If it wasn't for that, this would have gotten a 1, possibly a 0 from me, because I thought this was just terrible. But yes, this is a 2. All right, so let's go predictions for Supergirl going forward. Ashley, anything in this episode you want to make predictions about?
So it's probably because I've been reading a lot of DC Rebirth Superwoman recently, but I definitely think we're going to see Lena in that green armor by the end of the season.
Oh,
I don't think that shows up unless you're going to use it. I think the same feelings you have about the axe. And if you haven't read DC Rebirth Superwoman, Lena Luthor puts on Lex's green armor.
Yep.
And I would really, really like to see this version of Lena take that leap, and I would love to see the two of them have to fight it out at the end of the season. And I think it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
What do you think is coming up?
I think we're gonna have Mon-El and Kara date next episode. But I'm gonna throw this out there. I'm gonna go down the Luthor road with you.
Okay.
I think we see Lex Luthor in the season finale.
Do you think it'll be Michael Rosenbaum, says everyone on the internet?
No, because Michael Rosenbaum is actually on an FX show or a TV Land show.
Yeah.
He's busy.
Yeah.
And no, he won't come back to the role. They will cast a brand new actor to Luthor, just like they did with Tyler Hoechlin as Superman.
Do you think he has hair?
No. He'll be bald. He will be bald because they love to go to the classic comic book. They went with goofy Clark Kent.
Yeah.
We're going to go with bald Lex Luthor. I think we're going to get Tyler Hoechlin back in the season finale.
I think so.
I think we're going to get Lex Luthor. We will see this universe's Lex Luthor in the finale. And we will meet a Legionnaire in the finale of Supergirl.
A new Legionnaire.
A new Legionnaire. Well, we've only met Mon-El.
Yeah.
I think it will be Brainiac 5.
Oh, I love Brainiac 5 because he's got ties to Supergirl.
And Brainiac has also been referenced on the show.
Yep, Matt.
I think it will be Brainiac 5. I think all three of those things are going to happen in the finale. I think this episode, to me, confirmed that.
Cool.
So, cool. All right, let's shoot up an Arrow and move on to Arrow. Wait a minute. Go to Arrow.
Arrow Season 5, Episode 13, Spectre of the Gun. Following a traumatic attack on City Hall, flashbacks show how Renee became Wild Dog.
All right, let's talk about the good, and then we'll go to the bad. Kudos to writer Mark Guggenheim for not only making a very important episode, very timely episode, but as well creating a Star Trek Easter egg in the title of the episode. There was a classic, great Star Trek TOS episode called Spectre of the Gun.
Yeah, I was going to make the joke that I didn't know we were a Star Trek review show.
I loved the very first scene where we got to see Felicity, Diggle, and Arrow, just the three of them, in the cave, hacking things, talking to Felicity. Really seemed like the old days. It really harkened back to Season 2 of Arrow, and it made me happy. And what also made me happy? Wild Dog me being the new assistant to the deputy mayor.
I love that.
Nice little pairing.
Really love that.
What else did you like from this episode?
I really liked Renee's origin. I thought it really humanized and explains a lot about the character. I really could have used it 13 episodes ago when he was introduced and he was this like loud schmuck character that there was no point to. Like in the last 2 or 3 episodes, he's had a lot to do where I'm understanding why this version of the character is important and dynamic and unique. And I'm just like, why wait 13 episodes to do this?
I kind of agree. You couldn't have done this in the first episode because they always do a flashback to set up the new season's flashback.
I know they did it because they wanted to do the Evelyn betrayal nonsense and they had to do the Ragman stuff, but like the character really needed it.
I think that this flashback should have been in episode 2. I kind of also believe that maybe this episode should have been non-flashback. There's only been like a couple episodes. I think there's been 2 in the first season. And then I think they should have made this the third, like a no flashback episode. Because let's talk about let's dig deep. A shooter walks into the mayor's office and shoots everything up. They deal with a mass shooting, kill 7 people.
7 people, yeah.
Kill 7 people in the mayor's office. That scene I thought was very timely, very realistic. And I even loved the moment where Oliver took control. Like Oliver, he slipped into his Arrow voice at one point, and he was like, "Get behind the desk, go over there, get down there."
And you see him because there's a woman who's an aide or something in the scene with them, aside from Thea, and he maneuvers her like it's very much a women and children first kind of way. Like you're right, he takes control of what is going on.
Yeah, I was very surprised that we tackled this. I knew this episode was going to be about gun control. I did not realize that they were going to dive deep into the mass shooting. And it really brought up a lot of interesting counterpoint arguments, to the point that we saw Vigilante, who is our gun-toting Vigilante.
Yeah.
At the bridge, and he just offs that Berlanti guy right away, like fills him with bullets when Arrow is trying to save him, and Arrow makes...
You called him that Berlanti guy.
Oh, he's Bertinelli. Very similar. Very similar.
It is. It would have been funnier if it was Greg Berlanti just hanging from his leg.
Yeah, and so like we brought up that, and then we also kept going back and forth between Wild Dog and I want to call him Mr. T, but Mr. Terrific.
Yeah, well, you could call him Mr. T. I think he'd be down for that.
And then also I think there was a very strong scene where Oliver had the press conference, and he said that gun control is complicated. It is. And he was like, I owe my explanation, my opinion on gun control to the victims and not to you. And I thought that was a very strong scene, especially when we moved into Thea and Lance. This is no problem. Greeno can't solve this. Green Arrow
admire from like a 16-year-old
you got solve this, Oliver.
Angry person's standpoint why you say that, but if you're the mayor and you're a public figure who's in charge of making policy, your constituents are demand your opinion and you owe it to them. So it was I thought it was like a little childish, but I understand for like the arc of the episode for like an artsy writing standpoint why you want to have him say that.
For the drama of the episode, I thought it very well stood on the line of giving both audiences of that argument a valid voice. And then again, Lance being like, Oliver, you got to solve this as mayor, not Green Arrow.
I think they also do a good job at having the way the characters split, because you do have Curtis, who makes a lot of really interesting points about gun violence in the African-American community, who is like the vigilante who's anti-guns, and then you have Renee, who's very pro-gun, and then you have Lance as the the law enforcement agent who's anti-gun, and then you have Dinah, the law enforcement agency who's pro-gun, and like, I thought they had a great balance of both standpoints, and they had several scenes where everyone gets to say their piece in a respectful circumstance, and you have Curtis later making this appeal to Felicity that like, no, we need to have arguments and we need to get heated and still respect each other, because that's what our great societies were built on, and we don't do that anymore.
It's kind of what America's about, to be honest with you.
I think it was a great appeal to both the characters within the universe of the show and the audience to like, maybe we should open up and talk a little bit.
Speaking of scenes that we're talking about, I love this idea when Oliver started enacting the West Wing. He started doing his own West Wing scenes, reenactments, and he brought in the councilwoman.
Yes.
And to convince her, he brought he mentioned a lot of names. He's like, my mother, my father, my best friend Tommy
Merlin,
who was one of the 503 who died in the undertaking. Yes. Again, anytime they reference season 1, I love it.
Yeah. He also brings up Laurel.
Yeah, he brings up Laurel. Everything in life comes with limitations, and he sits in the scene. Like, again, that was another one where you're just like, man, Stephen Amell, you are, like, knocking it out of the park in this episode.
Stephen Amell has the capacity to be a really great actor, and he showed it in this episode. He was tremendous.
I also want to point something out. There is only one scene in this episode where he's Green Arrow.
Yes.
One scene, and that scene is probably only 4 minutes long.
Yes.
In a 44-minute episode.
And it's not boring.
No.
It was a very, very compelling episode.
Then let's get to some funny parts of this. Diggle gets to have a little arc with the new, I forget her first name, Dinah
Drake.
Donna Drake. And talking about a studio apartment and whether she can go back to being normal. And she's like, oh, it's stupid. And he was like, he says, I work for Oliver Queen. Try me.
Yeah, which is a great line. Also, I want to say, Diggle has more chemistry with Dinah than he's ever had with Lila. And the whole time I was like, I'd really like for them to be a couple.
You want him to cheat on Lila?
I don't know. I don't want him to cheat. And I
think Ashley wants him to cheat on Lila.
I don't want a home wreck because they have the cutest little baby. But like, I thought
Which baby? Sarah or John Jr.?
John Jr. Well,
which baby do you like more?
Baby Sarah's really cute, but like John Jr.'s after my heart.
Okay.
When he's like, Daddy, you're sweaty. Like, there's no.
She would home break baby Sarah.
I would not.
Like that.
I just thought the actors had such great chemistry together.
She's happy Flashpoint happened.
I'm okay with Flashpoint as soon as
Baby
Flash
Sarah? Poof.
stops referencing it every intro.
Ashley?
Baby John's freaking cute. Come at me and tell me he's not. He grows up to be the Green Arrow. Come on. He's Connor Hawk.
Sort of.
What do you want from me?
I want to also, let's talk about like the climax here. Because this is a hard episode to talk about simply for the fact that like they put everything out on the field, and when something is that good, it's hard to break it down. You're just like, go watch it.
Yeah.
That's it. Go watch it. The scene where he confronted the gunman in the hallway, and he did it.
Oh yeah.
As himself. And I kind of wanted to see, and we might see some scenes of this later down the road, because as soon as he did that and he was able to talk to this guy down, he just talked to him like a normal person. I was like, oh, I want to see like immediately the next episode, Oliver Queen's approval ratings through the roof. He's going to automatically win re-election.
Well, he even goes so far as to touch the guy because he has his hand on his chest and he takes the gun away from him before the guy is then tackled by 800 people from the SWAT team.
And then at the very end of the episode, we get to see the exact moment when Renee decides to become Wild Dog, when he sees the Damien Dark killing, 6-8 months ago, however you want to look at it on the timeline. And then Oliver goes to the steps of City Hall, gives this really awesome speech to about 20 people.
With a lot of fake candles.
And he says, we live in the home of the brave, and we don't run from hard choices. We face them. And the camera does this really long and high crane shot, something Arrow usually does not do. Crane shots are very expensive.
Yes.
They're very time-consuming. Arrow usually doesn't do that. They do this. I thought that was amazing. I thought his final speech was great. One of the finest performances, I think, Stephen Amell, in the hallway, in the final speech, one of the finest performances he's given this entire series. And just when we saw him in the 100th episode, Stephen Amell, and I didn't think, I was like, man, Stephen Amell is like, he's really kicking up. He beat it in this episode. He really stepped up to the plate, knocked it out of the park. That's my final good for this episode. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I just thought the whole episode was really good, so.
The bads are very, very minor nitpicks.
They are.
I wasn't a big fan of Renee's wife.
She was not great.
And she did this bad hand gesture. She kept doing this thing like...
Yeah, it's a weak actor choice.
It's weird. And then we never learn what the gun ordinance is at all.
They really kind of softball it, but I get it because it's not a political show and you're trying to please both sides of the argument. So it didn't bother me that much. I was more bothered by, like, Thea showed up and I was like, I don't need you in the show anymore. I didn't
miss you.
I used to really like Thea, but now that she's not Speedy, I sort of think there's no point.
Yeah.
So while I was really happy to have Quentin Lance back because I think he's really amazing, I could have done without her. She could have stayed gone. It would have been okay.
Well, she didn't serve much purpose in this episode.
She didn't. They didn't prove to me why I was supposed to be happy that she was back, except they had to fulfill this actress's contract.
All right, so let's move on into the rating on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. Ashley.
Yes.
What would you give this episode of Arrow, Spectre of the Gun?
I think Spectre of the Gun is the single greatest and most important episode that Arrow has ever done. I'm going to give it 5. Straight up arrows. How about you?
I am going to do something that I've never done on DCTV before.
Just going to give it a half.
With Arrow. No. This episode of Arrow gets 6. I am busting our scale because I think I agree with you. This is the best episode of Arrow.
Yeah.
Arrow has never beat this episode. This episode was so poignant. It was on point. And I think that this would be a great piece of fictional television to show anybody the rights and wrongs of gun control, no matter which way you fall in that argument, whether you're for it, whether you're against it. I'm not making any of those arguments here because that's not what this is about. We're talking about a fictional superhero show. This episode does a very good job about pointing to both sides.
But it takes this fictional world that we love and it uses it to address real world issues. And just like in comics, when you can do that, when you can walk that line, that's when you create art. You create something really special, and that's what this episode is.
And to bring it back around to Star Trek, the title of the episode, that's something that Star Trek did very well. Held a mirror up to our own society and revealed the rights and wrongs. Also, it's something that Green Arrow did a lot in the 70s.
Yeah.
Green Arrow was very much about like, drugs and society.
It was a social book.
He hated the fat cats.
Yeah.
So this is, in terms of comic book action, there are definitely better episodes of Arrow, but objectively, the best episode of Arrow ever.
I agree.
No doubt. No weak scenes except for the wife, and just strong.
Yeah.
So strong. All right, so let's figure out, do we want to do predictions? I say let's skip predictions.
It's tough to make predictions off this standalone episode.
Let's skip on the predictions, and let's read some of your comments from last week's episode. SC134 says, she gonna go to Oliver first, talking about Arrow. Oliver will then call a press conference to announce he's the Green Arrow, and we have an outed Oliver going into season 6. Okay, this is referring to the reporter, of course, who has pictures of him in Russia and stuff like that. What do you think about that? Do you think she will out Oliver?
Yes, I do. I think I think a bus is gonna come by and she's gonna push him right in front of that green bus. Definitely.
I agree. I think we're going into season 6 and season 6 is confirmed, by the way.
I don't know. I thought we were going into like season 3 with an out Oliver, but that didn't last.
Season 4. I thought
season 4. That didn't last either, though. So maybe everyone will get mind wiped by another Flashpoint. Who knows?
The Bobnon pull-up says, Jason can summon for Paul Blackthorne when Arrow doesn't feel like paying him, LOL. And I'm actually surprised you think that Diggle is the best actor on the show. Well, Diggle is the best actor on Arrow.
Get out of town.
No doubt.
David Ramsey is
Dave
the
Ramsey
greatest.
is so good. And, when
Paul Blackthorne also really great.
Paul, when Lance, he's, sometimes, Renee.
Yo, Hoss, what's your problem?
Yeah, settle down with the guns, okay?
I don't know.
Anytime I'll come up there.
Say my daughter.
My daughter. A lot of it's the wiggle.
He does. He's a very shruggy man.
Yeah. It's all right here. You want to know how to do the Paul Blackthorne? Put a lot on the lips. Shake the chin.
You gotta buzz your hair down.
Any day. Vancouver. And lastly, John's Gaming says, can you stop calling actors by their real name because I just don't know any of these actors' real name. It's called Google and IMDb. Go check it out. So we're going to say it whenever we want to say it.
We also feel like it's really important to give credit where credit's due, especially among the actors that are appearing regularly on the shows, because they're more than just the fictional characters that they play.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want to just call Wild Dog.
Yeah.
He's been on The Walking Dead. He's been on a bunch of other stuff.
Grey's Anatomy.
He's going to punch you in the face. Okay. All right, that's it for DCTV Recap. Please go down to the comments. We'll read them next week and tell us, what do you think about our theories of the 2 episodes? And also, do you agree with our thoughts on the episodes? We want to hear what episode you thought was better, Supergirl or Arrow. We think it's pretty one-sided, but we want to hear from you. Don't forget to click subscribe. I'm Jason Inman.
I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And we'll see you next week. Hop into the Wave Rider and just, skip the entire week and just watch it.